Osio Saguli Kaskana Go, brothers and sisters out there. You're listening to Tribal Voices, and I got my lovely lady here, Tracy Kennedy, and I got a special guest for you today, and his name is Granada Steve. And how you doing, Steve? You doing okay?
I'm doing great, my friend, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on the show. I've been waiting for patiently to come on. It's a great honor, and I say that with meaning, you know.
It's good. Thank you. And Tracy, it's good to have you with us. And
thank you.
Today we got Mr. Steve here that is going to be asking a few questions about some things. And well, you know, Patty and Tracy and myself, we're here to answer for you, brother. So go right ahead.
Oh, before we go in, I want to welcome Six Nations and Saichi Radio from Quebec, Ontario. No, Quebec. Oh, there you are. Montreal, Quebec.
Cool.
Canada.
Well, Saguli to First Nations out there, too, that are listening.
Saguli and say bonjour today. Awesome.
Oh. Steve, brother, you've been, you know, doing a great job with the Wake Radio. By the way, we're on Wake Radio, ladies and gentlemen, and being simulcasted with These Changing Times Radio and TurtleIslandNews.info. And Steve, if you got some questions, let them fly, brother.
Okay. I'm very pleased that you mentioned Turtle Island News. I would recommend you guys to go and have a wee listen. I've went to sleep a few times listening to you. Your dulcet tones, Tracy, and I would thoroughly recommend it to people to go and pay the site a little visit and listen to the radio. It was podcasting I was listening to, but nonetheless, it was still very intriguing and very good listening.
Thank you so much.
And, I can also say that, you know, Tracy has sent some podcasts. We've played them on air on the Wake Radio, and although we haven't joined forces with you, Tracy, I regard you as friends, and we will put a link on the site and so on as soon as we kind of get a chance.
Hey, we can join posses anytime.
Well, let's hope so. The friendship with TCT and so on has been amazing. I mean, a remarkable people, as much as I could say without doing too much backslapping sort of thing, you know.
But you know, Steve, this is the thing. Tracy here is also a co-host for me on the Heart Drum on TurtleIslandNews.info also. But we have a lot of news out of Canada and the United States on what's going on with indigenous people. So, you know, if you have any questions, Steve, please ask them. And you know, we have trouble right now with, of course, Adolf Harper in Canada. I call him Adolf Harper because what he's letting the RCMP, the SS of Canada, do to First Nations women and people in general. And he's trying to say that the missing women over there, the Indians did it, when actually it's Harper doing it. Yeah. But you know, go ahead, Steve. Yeah. Well, you have any questions, brother?
Well, I have a few questions, and I kind of put them in a little bit of an order so that we can kind of maybe follow a line of progress. And I would love for you to go into that a little bit more, because Canada was the place where I'd visited and hope to see a lot more of the First Nation Indians, if you like, and that is really my first question. And my first question is, you know, we've been brought up with the cowboy and Indian films, and we would naturally call you Indians because that's what we've conditioned to say. And also I'm aware that when I went to Canada, there were First Nations, which is like the politically correct way of saying things. I would really like to know what you guys would like to be called.
Well, up here, most of the first peoples call them First Nations and then identify them by tribe and clan themselves. Indians, we still use that term. We use it a lot, so that's probably the confusion. But Indians are from India. It's not a proper term. Go ahead, Twodog.
One of the things, Steve, is like this. In Canada, you had the Anishinaabe. You had you have the Seneca, Tuscarora, Mohawk, and many nations. The Cree. Down here, you have the Lakota, the Salagi, which is the Cherokee people, the Shawandasi, which is the Shawnee people. It means the people of the South. You have the Dene, which is the Navajo people, the Chiricahua, Apache. You have so many nations. Okay.
Yes. There were, at one point, as far as I can tell, at least 1,200 tribes in the place they call Canada in the United States. Probably another 600 South America. So they even divided them up by clan too. So different intonations of voice, probably different tones. The thing that we call Cree and Mohawk and Iroquois, Algonquin even, a lot of that is a newer term, and most of those terms aren't what we called ourselves. It was a group of people they got together under torture. Twodog?
It's like this a lot. Okay, they come up to my people. I'm from the I'm from the Blue Clan, the Eastern Band of Salagi in North Carolina. And here's the term, Cherokee. Okay? But that's their term. We're the Salagi. Okay? It's different. They say that, that's not what we are. We're not Cherokee, we're Salagi. Or you're Shawnee. No, I'm Shawandasi.
Absolutely, Twodog. And Mohawk. People of the Flint, our clan was called Haudenosaunee. My clan is Turtle Clan. So, as Twodog was saying, the majority of words that we hear, even for names of clans, are the new ones. We use them now because it's identifiable, but those were not the names we called ourselves. Actually, Mohawk was an insult, to be honest. But even Mohawk people are using that word now, so. First instance, I think, is safe, right?
Yeah. Let's look at it this way, okay? You have what they call Lakota Sioux, all right? Steve?
Yep.
Here's the deal. Sioux means enemy. Okay, they are the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota. They have 7 bands of the what they call the Sioux. So basically, they were Lakota, Oglala Lakota, or Nakota, Dakota, other nation.
Mm-hmm.
And they immediately called them, they're Sioux. Enemy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Got you. So this is why, the questions I'm asking is to try and dispel the myths. Obviously Indian isn't the correct term, as Tracy pointed out. And then I suppose what we were calling the First Nations is a catch-all for all the tribes, I'm assuming.
Everybody. The people who are here first.
Yeah.
Before said invasion.
Yeah. So I would say that saying First Nations tribes would be the correct way to address it, I suppose.
Here's the thing, Steve. It goes like this. What they did when they first come here, it was said that they left England because of religious persecution. Now that's what was said.
Mm-hmm.
But when they got here, they turned the persecution on us.
Mm-hmm.
So if they didn't want it, why are they giving it to someone?
Yeah.
Basically how they did this is that they held the holy book up, but they had a gun, what we called a thunderstick back then. If you didn't believe what they wanted you to, they kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at this.
But first, I mean, they didn't ever really come out and they started out really, they learned everything they could from our people. They learned the ways of the land. They learned how to heal themselves from the plants of the land. They learned how to survive in this. It was a very, very wild country. It was nothing like what they had come from. So they befriended the peoples that were here. And in the interim, what they wanted was, and what they did, was they found out where the good lands were, where the resources were, and that's where the wars actually started with the peoples.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they started to push us and say, well, we have settlers coming in, and we'll need you to move a little bit to give them some of this land, and we'll bring you da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But, yeah, it was not... when they first came here, it was not under animosity. They did not show us animosity. It was only afterwards, when they had gained what they needed to survive, then that's when things changed.
Can I say something, Patty?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when they landed in our far east coast, and they already knew from maps that they got from the people who were Vikings. So they knew exactly where to land. And they heard at first they were welcomed. They ignored the fact that later they were slaughtered for not listening. They came there, and it was mostly a religious group at first, who came in peace and brought gifts, of course, and asked questions. Now, we were still trading all the way across all of the East Coast, back and forth. It was a big deal to have a trader from the far south, so South America, and we had those because they found things that are only there. So we told them the coastal, and then they went away from us for a little while. And then they attacked much further south, East Coast, United States. It wasn't an attack. Again, they came with gifts. But also this time, they came with colonists. The colonists had to be chained in their camps at night because what we didn't know is those colonists were slaves and taken from prisons and insane asylums and told they would be mining for gold, which was not on the East Coast. Couldn't find it there. So many of those people escaped and told us what was coming, and this spread all across the East Coast, all across the Great Turtle Island, which we call Canada, United States, South America, traveled, and we were starting to wait for this thing. What we didn't know is that a clan with similar maps and times of year and when to come had already infiltrated South America. When we started to get the news, and this was passed between all the peoples, it was already too late because hordes and hordes of people started coming over. The largest mass migration that we've been told ever happened in history. But there was at least, like Patty was saying, 200 years of peace, even when people escaped the slavery because they were forced over here. And some people chose to come over here because Europe sucks so bad. So picture this in your mind. getting in a ship that you think you could die in, traveling for 3 months, going to a land that you know nothing about was a better option than staying in Europe for the ones who had a choice. Realize that's how this started, and the people that escaped became parts of clans, and we didn't look at colors really at that point. You're in, you're in. That's it. We didn't worry about if they were Scottish, they were Irish, they were Italian, they were Scandinavian. We didn't care at that point. As long as you listened to the rules, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So go on, Twodog.
One of the problems, Steve, that also happened was we taught them how to hunt, fish, everything. And, what they considered the first Thanksgiving. After that, they started stealing the, potato supply of this one nation. And, which that was taking without asking, Steve, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically 50 years after the first Thanksgiving, they annihilated that whole nation.
And the start of that Thanksgiving, they had pilfered grave sites for grain because they were starving. What is also not told is the first people that came over here from Europe were sent with no supplies. They were starving.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even know what to eat. They had nothing. So when we blame them, know that these were starving people.
Exactly.
And sent here because of that.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to go off my track of questions there, but you mentioned something about Thanksgiving, and partly the reason why I'm putting these questions to destroy myths and become aware of some of the things that happened. Was it right that Thanksgiving was a celebration of a massacre of your people, and the general or whatever gave medals out for and thanks for essentially saving them and the bravery and whatever their cause? Would that be correct?
Well, one
Thanksgiving.
of the go ahead, Trace.
Okay, Thanksgiving was a name they did much, much, much later. But what really happened that day was after they stole everything from the graveyards, they slaughtered the people who had given them gifts.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'll let the other guy say, but what really happened was that a massacre.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what it was for the people that helped them, they turned around and massacred.
Mm-hmm.
That happened. Basically, we got a nation called Yahi. We used to have the nation called the Yahi in California. That what they did was said that hunting Indians is the same as hunting deer. Just go hunt them, kill them. So basically, they wiped the Yahi out in California. They're not here anymore.
No, I was just going to say that is the history that is repeated over and over and over. My people, my ancestors, are from the Mi'kmaq, which is a Northeast tribe, Nova Scotia. They were the first of my people to, yep, they were the first of my people to interact with Europeans, and the ones that there's a rich history written in many books that you can get, but through our family genealogy, they were brought over. The ships came and dropped off small groups of people. There were men and there were women. They left very little in the way of supplies, and it was the French, and who they had brought over were the malcontents. As in always, it seems like whenever they send people over to somewhere that is wild, untamed, or whatever, they send those who they least expect to come back or think of as being worth anything.
Also, for at least 100 years, we have records up here on the East Coast, the high East Coast, of once a year people coming to cull the boys. So they came here and slaughtered the boys over 16 that were left.
Right, right. Well, when the French dropped these people off, they let them know that they were not going to give them any supplies. They were not going to give them any medicine. They were not going to give them any tools, but that they would be back in a year. And if they managed to stay alive and would develop a fort, that they could live there. And the French made friends with the Micmac and with my ancestors. And that was the first marriage of the French into my family. And they taught each other. The malcontents that were the dregs of society from France, who were kicked off on the shores of this new world to them and left to die or to survive on their own by their own people, were gifted in being able to build levees and things like this and dikes. They worked with the Micmac in learning how to fish and how to make the land arable and different things like this. In fact, they worked so well together that the Micmac, my tribe, my band of the Micmac, was held fiercely to the protectiveness of the French, and actually for decades after that fought alongside the French, to the point where when the English came in and a treaty was finally made between the French and the English said, we're not going to do it unless you tell them dang Micmacs to leave us alone. And so the French told the Micmac to leave the English alone, that they had made a truce, and the Micmac flat looked at him and said, that's your truce, not ours. That's when the first relocation started with the Micmac, with taking the people from the northeast and moving them out of the way. And that's when my people made their journey and their trek down to Louisiana, where they wound up. And it just goes to show you that it wasn't the people against the people. There was never any animosity between those who were brought here and dropped off to die or to survive. In fact, they got along with us very, very well, respected each other. It was only when the upper echelon came and saw the resources and saw the ability that the French and the Micmac had to working together, that they decided that, well, this is a way that we can get in with everybody, send in the good guys, and then come back and mow them down. And that's what they did throughout the history of our people. They never came in anger at first, until the tribes, like Tracy said, got on to what was going on. They just about wiped out. How many was it? 4 million? Was it 4 million? 10? How long was it within a 10-year period?
The Jesuits say just here. Well, when they talk about from the islands to the North Americas, all the Americas, they say 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
That's their records that they put through in 1400s. So this is what they said back then. Billions. And there are records saying that when they came to the coast, it was so bright sometimes at night that they cut off all their lights on the ship because there were so many fires by the coast. And like you said, Patty, we were warned. They told us what was coming. And, what I was saying before, it was on the far north because, the records that they already had, they weren't discovering anything. Columbus, by the way, didn't even hit North America at all. Did. He just got to the islands and infested everyone. it was the Swiss and the Northern Europeans that had come over and had detailed maps. They got their butts kicked back to Europe because they broke the laws. But this group stayed here for a very long time before the wars. Like Betty said, for a long time we lived together and we were cool with that. It was good.
It was good for a while. Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry. Going back, it sounds like the tactics that were used on your ancestors was fairly common throughout the world then, you know, when you look at Ireland with the famine, or the so-called famine, which wasn't a famine, the Highland clearances in Scotland, which is just, we were driven out of the land, the convicts in Australia, getting sent out to Australia to populate that land.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds very, very much like that similar tactic.
It's how they conquered Europe.
Yeah.
Exact same tactics. Yeah. They starved you.
Yeah.
And then made you fight each other. Exactly. They had done that for 2,000 years. Why change it?
Yeah.
First, they made friends and learned everything they could possibly learn about your land and you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's the thing, okay? If you look at America when it was trying to be built, Ben Franklin himself went to the Iroquois Confederacy. And he watched, and he listened. And this is what he stated. This is in, I think, 1754. In 1754, Ben Franklin said this about our Constitution, as far as the Iroquois Confederacy Constitution. He stated that if a nation of savages can have almost a perfect constitution, then we can do better. That's what he stated. A nation of savages.
Yeah.
No, Steve, go ahead, Twodog.
Here's the deal. If you look at the Constitution of the United States, it's almost identical. Almost. But they're changing it now like crazy. It's almost identical to the Iroquois Confederacy. All right?
Mm-hmm.
But you look at as America goes on, from George Washington to Andrew Jackson. God, I just cussed. Here's what they did. When they killed my people, they would skin them to make their pants.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the term redskin comes from.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So they were making pants out of my people.
If I can go back a little bit, and I've got something that probably would lead into that what you're talking about there, the redskin thing. You guys you're going to all the place. I've got to go. Do I want to ask that question? So I've got to go back a little bit, if you don't mind. And you can maybe answer the two.
Yeah, sure.
And they're pretty general. The first one is, what was your estimation of the population before the white man hit America? And what is left, or what you think is roughly left now of your nation? And if you can explain, which I know you already have, but for people that may have missed it, the significance of Turtle Island, because I showed my ignorance in thinking that I knew a reasonable amount about you guys, and I realised that Turtle Island was the whole of sort of America, North America or whatever, and I thought it was like an island on the border of Canada, USA. So for, I know that you were saying there's lots of different stories, but if you can briefly explain that again and what you thought the population was and what it is now, would be appreciated.
Trace, can you do that?
On what you call Canada, United States, over 1 billion people.
Yeah.
How many do you think is left right now?
Right now, well, we have to look at it in a couple different ways. One of the problems is a lot of people are not counted as Indian, Native. They also took that away from us. So right now, in Canada, per se, there are 300,000 Native people. Now, realize there was 100% Indian, Native, whatever you want to call us, in Canada, United States, and Mexico. Right now, in the 3 continents, there are less than 3%. Everyone else is from elsewhere. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about genocide? That's the number you need to look at. 3% of us are original people. That's a slaughter that happened here.
Steve, it goes like this, Steve, real quick. Mm-hmm. What they've done to a lot of our people, all right, is that there's a lot of brothers and sisters roaming around here that have native blood in them, but they just don't know. Mm-hmm. And what they do is that and this is what they actually did, and this is even up to the 80s, 90s, pretty much to now, okay, mm-hmm. is that if you are indigenous off the reservation, okay, and you're going to have a baby, they will take that baby, look at that baby, and what they'll do, they'll take a pencil or a pen, and if they want to, they will write down white. Mm-hmm. So what we call it is pencil genocide. Yeah. So basically, the woman can come back, but the baby can't. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you also have the problem of in the South, there were a lot of relocations from all over the country. When Indians acted up, they were taken and moved. Sometimes whole tribes, sometimes clans, bands, it didn't matter. But when they came down south, they meshed with the tribe. They brought them, and the Europeans figured that one Indian is just like another Indian. They're interchangeable. So they would take us and drop us in places like along in Georgia, on the way, drop a few more in Florida, some in Mississippi, some Louisiana, Texas, and on over, wherever they went. And those Indians who found themselves uprooted from their tribes and no way to get back home were taken in by the nations and tribes that were there. So those who are classified, at least I know for a fact, in southern Louisiana, the Attakapas, the Chitimacha, the Homa, the Biloxi, the Choctaw, all of these tribes are culminations also of Indians from other tribes that lost their heritage, were uprooted and stuck into another tribe and have taken that heritage on themselves. It's so convoluted the way they've done it, Steve. They've done it purposely to muddy the waters. Down south, we have a way, that's the way we say it. Mm-hmm. When we know that they're hiding things from us and that they've lied, we say they muddied the waters. And that's what they've done. They've made it to where the same thing that I know that they did with the Irish and the Scottish and the African and the Asian. They muddied the waters to the point of making you forget that there was ever a history behind you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is how they came in and they tore us apart bit by bit by bit. Then they introduced the blood quantum, which further broke down the tribes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to tell them about the schools. The schools were purposely made to take us completely from our roots, completely from our spirituality, completely divorce us from the tribe, and it's worked really well.
Well, one of the things I could tell you, Steve, is that I had a chief in my little band here that went to boarding school at the age of 3. And when he got out, when he was 18 and he went back home, nobody knew him. He couldn't speak his language. Nobody knew him. And it was a disconnection of the family. Now, I have a great-grandmother that I remember that I actually called her. She had the door to the bathroom a little bit open, and she was putting makeup on a tattoo that they gave her. And what it does, there's no love in these boarding schools, residential schools. And it's like this, Steve. If I walked in there and I did not know English and did not know how to say it anyway, and I walked in and looked at this priest and said, "Oh, Osil," they'd beat me half to death and scream in my ear to speak English. Well, I didn't know what English was. So they'd beat you.
Yeah.
Not considering while you're in these boarding schools, residential schools, that these children were being raped by the priest.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as Turtle Island goes, if you look at any map between Mexico, United States, and Canada as far as Turtle Island, and take a real good look at it, it looks like a turtle.
I was taking a drink of my coffee there. You guaranteed if you take a drink of your coffee, those
it's time to talk.
I just wanted to say, too, there was one other aspect that I wanted to touch on, Steve. Hopefully I won't be jumping into another one of your questions, but aspect that we didn't get to that I think is important to tie in the commonality that all of our tribes have in being disappeared. And that is when they sent over, as Tracy was talking about earlier, they sent over the missionaries, and they sent over the priest, and they sent over the congregations in order to bring Christianity to the land, salvation to the savage. What they did, in effect, was continue genocide. And each one, it seems like, had a different aspect, because I know the Catholic religion is extremely responsible for denying the records kept properly of Indians in the South. I know that they purposely lied and purposely omitted and purposely destroyed documents that pointed towards Indians or said that this person was Indian or that person was Indian. That was one way of destroying their heritage. Another way, the Jehovah's Witness in the very beginning came through and set up their missions all across Turtle Island. And they would go out to each tribe and they would preach to these tribes, and they would try to coerce some of the tribal people, some of the tribal members, to come with them to the forts where they had these missions. And some of them would, because they would come and they would speak and they would say how much they were the same and da-da-da-da. And they went with them to learn their religion. What they found out, though, when they got there, is they were locked in. They couldn't leave. They were held as prisoners. And the Jehovah's Witness would come to them, and I don't remember what it was called back then, Jehovah's Witness, but they would come to them, and they would tell them that they would have to be saved, that they had to be saved before they could be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they also would kill these natives, but they did a good thing because they saved them before they died. You know,
every religion came over here and slaughtered.
It sounds.
That's what they did. In the name of God.
It sounds like
Jesus.
It sounds like a bit like the Spanish Inquisition.
It was.
Exactly, like it worked so well in Europe. Why change your routine?
Yeah.
Well, you know, in
Scotland, guys, from everything you believed, you know, why wouldn't it work everywhere else?
In Scotland, what I was told in Scotland by some Scottish Indian and Scottish that are here that are friends of mine.
Sure.
What they said was, if a Scottish man married a Scottish woman, if there is higher up people out of England that are there, the English lord that is there had the right to sleep with the wife first, not the Scottish husband.
That's correct.
The English lord.
That's correct.
And what they did that for is that'll make that child half English.
Mm-hmm.
Genocide.
Yep.
See? And then what they done when they come here, they did the same to us.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going?
Yep.
They don't understand it's not in the blood.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not in the blood, it's in the heart.
Yeah, that's right. I'll not say the word, but I explained to Patty there last week where the word F-U-C-K comes from, and that explanation of the laird or the lord or whatever, the landowner, let's say, basically he had to sleep with the bride on the first night, and as you stated, and it basically the F-U-C-K explains as fornication under command of the king, because the king couldn't do it all himself, so he allocated his lords and lairds and so on to do that job. So that I fully understand what you're saying there.
The stories are so similar, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Word for word, right?
Yeah.
Like we've said, the thing worked in Europe. That's why they brought it here.
Yeah. Can I say this here, Steve?
Sure.
It goes like this. I can't say his whole name, but his first name is Chinumpa. But he lives with the Oglala. He lives on Pine Ridge Reservation. And the first thing he said, because he started, cussing like crazy, on one of the shows I actually did when I was on Blog Talk, but that's a long time ago. But this is what he told me. If you didn't want us to talk like this, you shouldn't have taught us the language.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have these cuss words like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we had like, Pipichniello on, Lakota Reservation, which means you're not worth talking to, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't talk like that. But they wanted us to forget our language and talk English. And a lot of these priests actually talk like that too.
It's a really good point, Twodog. As far as I know, there wasn't a word for hate here.
Mm-mm.
There was a word. There were words in every nation for not speaking to.
Yeah.
There was a word for not true in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
There was a word for his waters are shallow.
Mm-hmm.
There was no word for hate.
Right.
None. We learned that word.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Mean said at one time, I was watching him on this idiot box we got here. Actually stated that at one time we didn't even have a word for warrior.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is they come over here and they forced on us what was not us. They would not listen. It's like if you go outside and go, God help me, okay? If the Lakota walked out and said, Tankashila Oshi Malayo, grandfather help me, ain't that the same?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't take time to understand who we were.
Yeah.
And how we were and how we talked and how you could talk back with us if you just learned.
Mm-hmm.
But here it is, Steve, in a nutshell, and Chinumpa actually said this. From them and myself also, I hold to the Chinumpa Waka, the holy pipe, okay? Mm-hmm. That's our spirituality. That's us. I mean, it said in the Bible to lift your instruments up to the Creator. Well, what do you think the drum was here? Mm-hmm. We were doing that. And when we did it, we were considered savages for lifting our instruments to the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
But we were doing the same thing. They said, dude, way before the book ever come to this continent.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Can I just interrupt a little bit there, Charles?
No problem, brother.
I hate to interrupt your flow.
No, you're my guest too.
I'm absolutely loving what I'm hearing. Some of it is horrific, and but the knowledge that you're imparting for my own selfish self, I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm aware that we've probably got 35 minutes left, and I'm only into question 2. So, and obviously the Turtle Island question is to be answered. So if you would like me back, I'll come back next week, and we'll maybe continue the show what we don't get finished, if we don't get finished. If that
See, we got what, 35 minutes?
About 35 minutes, yeah.
But, you know, this is the thing. We called it Turtle Island. We have always called it that. And, I mean, if you look at the map, it looks like a great big giant turtle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the story of Turtle Island, Patty was great with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if she wants to repeat it, that's, you know, which day for me, that's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
But let me explain something about, now I am Mohawk from New York, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, Salagi from North Carolina. I'm Blue Clan. But, here's how, when we talk about Andrew Jackson, most of us will not even pack a $20 bill because his picture is on it. To me, to a lot of us, he was the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had a thing called the Indian Removal Act. And what he done was forced our people to walk to Oklahoma, where, you know, the western band of Cherokee are. Okay? The reason my band got to stay in North Carolina is that he, one of the chiefs sat with the American people and got this thing to where we didn't have to go no further than North Carolina, and then he would give himself up. Well, they held on to that agreement, but as soon as that chief come back in, they hung it.
Mm-hmm.
So from the east to the west, there was animosity between the east and the west because they allowed us to stay in North Carolina for just a little while. There was animosity between the east and the west.
Sure.
Because they had to walk and we didn't. But here's the point. Between that Indian Removal Act, the President of the United States, which is, I'm going to cuss again, forgive me, Andrew Jackson, made them leave where America could take that land.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have a problem with Andrew Jackson. He was the devil. Now, we considered him the devil.
I understand.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter, Steve, is that from sand to sand on Turtle Island, from Mexico, United States, and Canada, okay? From sand to sand, this is Indian land. Every bit of it, every ounce of it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't listen. And a lot of them had, a lot of the English people that come over here, they had tremendous ego. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They took without asking. That's why some of the, most of the Indian wars started. You take something from me without asking, you're going to make me mad, see?
Of course. It's a natural reaction, isn't it?
Let's look at the Prime Minister of Canada. Here we go, Tracy. The Prime Minister of Canada, a guy that works with Adolf Harper over there, what he stated, and it wasn't even a year ago, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
What he stated was, to get rid of our Indian problem, we got to go through the women.
Yeah.
And how many women are missing in Canada right now?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the point. Okay. He understands, this jerk or whoever he is understands that if it wasn't for the life, if you take away the life givers of the nation, you kill the people.
Yeah.
So to go through the women is how you do it, see?
Yeah. Well, that kind of, I'll skip one of my questions and come to my next question, which relates to that.
Please do.
Obviously, what we have heard and what we have been sort of conditioned to believe, and you said it earlier on there that you were treated like savages.
Mm-hmm.
to me, a society, I mean, I know not all tribes were exactly the same, but a society that has the women choose the chiefs. And,
yes, they do.
And essentially, if the chiefs weren't doing the right job, then they booted him out and the women chose another chief. So that system basically was a case of no men were really in the running as from voting and keeping power. The women basically had the power and the men had to live up to the job, if you like.
Right.
To me, that wouldn't be a savage society in my eyes.
Well, here's the deal with that. Me and Tracy understand this deal. The women pick the chief, okay? And the women are watching this chief. Everything they try to do, the women watch. Tracy just fell off, honey.
I think she's leaving, Charles.
Well, anyway, it's like this. The women pick the leader. The women watch this leader. And if he doesn't do the right job, the women take this leader out, put another leader in. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at the United States Constitution, it states that if your leader does not do the right thing, the people have a right to take them out and put someone else in. Mm-hmm. Same Constitution, see?
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yes.
Now, let's go a little bit further. I got to say this, Steve, while we can get this out.
Uh-huh.
You look at Sand Creek, with the Cheyenne people. There was a general that was a Methodist preacher. Okay, he was a Methodist preacher turned general. And what he said, these are Black Kettle's people of the Cheyenne people. And it was already a treaty, and the chief had the American flag over his teepee to let him know that this is a peaceful band, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the point. What this Methodist preacher turned general said was kill them all, right down to the children, nits make lights. In the name of God, these people have to be annihilated. That's how much we were hated.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did, they used the name of God to kill. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a system of their focus.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like they've done to many, many nations. Yeah. Although somewhat more harshly with the First Nation people.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is that's how they did it,
Mm-hmm.
Was basically, let me put it to you this way. Let's go back just a little bit, all right? When a lot of people first come here, and I'm going to say this for Canada because that's where me and Tracy was talking about. The first people that come over here sent somebody back to England, to the Queen, okay? And told the Queen, we got this land over here because there's no body there. There is no human being on that continent.
Yeah.
We were not considered humans. We were considered animal.
Mm-hmm.
So we wasn't considered human being. So when they went to Canada, said, went to England and told the Queen, you got everything you want over here. There are no people here. And there was billions of people here. Many nations. But we weren't considered human, see?
Hmm.
That's sometimes we're not considered human now.
Insane. Well, that kind of leads me on to the question that was, you were talking about the red skin, and
mm-hmm.
The question I've got here, what are the myths, the common myths about the First Nations tribes, like scalping and obviously this type of thing?
Let's look at the scalping, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To a lot of our people, especially the Mohawk, and that was here, You look at the French and Indian War, which, we were involved in. Yeah. We did not know about the scalping, really. The French taught us how to show how many people you have killed. You bring the scalp back. Mm-hmm. The French taught us how to scalp. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you look at Goyakli, you look at Goyakli as far as Geronimo of the Chiricahua people. He lost his mother-in-law, 2 children, and his wife. They killed them. And from my understanding, they scalped these people. And when Geronimo seen it, he's like, what? He couldn't fathom what they just did. Mm-hmm. So the French taught a lot of our people how to scalp, but it wasn't an Indian thing that way, Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was slightly distracted there when we have a caller. Yeah. That's why I deliberately asked the question. Because in my research, it wasn't the First Nations tribes that started the scalping. It was actually the white man that started.
It was the French.
Yeah. And this is why I'm trying to, questions that I'm asking you may be hard in the sense of that they sound very rough. But I want to try and dispel as many of the myths as I possibly can. And you're
as far as hard, Steve, I can say it like this. In my lifetime, okay, I've had police officers shooting at me because they're scared of me. Mm-hmm. One bullet went right through my ear, right through my hair, mm-hmm. and one hit my house. But they actually hung me.
Yeah, I heard.
So, I got war wounds, man. I wear them proudly. But I'm trying to tell you that this mind frame of, the savage, and when I was started to get hung, the first thing they said, if you don't believe in God, you soon will. My God, man, it's still going on. I mean, we're getting people that, the government is saying, oh, he committed suicide, but he was shot in the back of the head.
Mm-hmm. Can I stop your flow again there?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Twodog.
No problem.
We have a caller that wants to call in. Are you quite happy to have a caller join us? And
sure thing.
We're not going to get through my questions in the period of time. So if you would have me back, I would love to come back next week.
If you have another question, Steve, real quick, you can say it anytime you want.
I suspect probably my questions aren't just 1 minute answers. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you can get the contact request in, and I'll drag them in. And
okay.
But I mean,
here's the thing. One little thing, Steve. Mm-hmm. I'll do it real fast.
Sure, it's okay. No worry.
One of the things that the movies did, the cowboy and Indian movies, mm-hmm. and they would call my women squaw, okay? Mm-hmm. Forgive me, Patty. Mm-hmm. But that is a white man's term for a whore.
Really?
Pardon my, but that's what it is. Pardon my saying that, but that's what it is.
Yes, it is.
So when somebody calls my wife that, and she hits them, there you go.
Yeah.
But that's what that means. So please don't call my wife or any of my women that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can understand, and this is part of the thing about the myths and the derogatory terms that we would use. Because we're so used to watching cowboy and Indian films, that it's the conditioning we've had. You know, so, and as I say, I'm slightly distracted here because I'm trying to get a contact with Mark, who wants to come on the show. But it's
Janssen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can get him. I don't know.
Usually I need him as a contact. So, all right, I think I have him.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So
he visited me from the UK actually, and Janssen is also Salagi from the Horn family, and his family went over with the Wild West show in Buffalo Bill, and never came home. So
I see.
He's an Indian over in England, and he come to see me.
Hopefully that should be him coming in the call.
I see him now. Osio.
Osio.
How you doing, brother?
Doing real good. Really liking the show.
I see.
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
No, I was listening to what you were saying, and we was talking in the chat room about the stuff. And I was just going to say, when you said about the guy who committed suicide, what about the one who was holding the table leg in the bag, the wood carver, was shot in the back 11 times and was told, and the court said it was suicide?
Well, what are we talking about? You look at John T. Williams, okay?
Yeah.
You look at John T. Williams, what that was is in Seattle. There was a indigenous elder that was a wood carver, and he was walking across the crosswalk, and the police officer actually got out of his car, told him to put the weapon down, which he really didn't have no weapon. There was no weapon found. And the man was actually deaf. He couldn't hear. He told him to put it down 3 or 4 times, and he shot him in the back 7 times and killed the man.
Yeah, I was saying there's been a lot of that, because I was going to say when you was talking about it, like I put in the chat room that the French took the natives out of scalp, and
yes,
the English paid more money for them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but I wanted, listening to what you were saying, explaining to Steve. Also, when you touched on the blood quantum, the way the Native Americans are the only people that have to prove who they are in the world.
Let's put it this way, Beyonce. And Steve, listen to what I'm going to say here.
Sure.
What it is on Turtle Island, you have a thing called the BIA, which is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Okay. You don't have the Bureau of Scottish Affairs. You don't have the Bureau of English Affairs. You don't have the Bureau of African American Affairs. You only have us. And we are the only race of people here on Turtle Island. We're the only race of people that has to have a card to prove who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You have on one of the reservations, I think Pine Ridge, you have a brother of mine he's a Lakota brother of mine. His father is full-blood Lakota. His mother is a full-blood Nakota, and they have him down as half. He's a full-blood.
Yeah, that's true. Who's that, Dwayne? Or
it's a serious thing here.
It really is. I mean, look at me now. It's been sorting out my card, my tribal card. It's finally getting sorted out now. It's only took a lifetime, just because I'm Cherokee English.
Yeah. It's what do you think about this, Steve? Go ahead, please.
Well, the fact that you have to register and things like that, and get cards is obviously the construct side of things. But I can understand why that process would be for you to try and raise an identity. I think. Would I be correct in that assumption?
You would be extremely correct. Here's the problem that we got. America actually stated this one time. The less Indians we got, the less we got to deal with.
One of the things, Steve, is that the American government promised to manage the money and the rents and everything else that they would pay the natives, and they never had. It accounts for something like $2 trillion, because it's been going on now for over 150 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way they can pay that money to individuals, so they've tried to chop and change, but a lot of tribes are getting their money back. But what they're doing is, because a lot of them are corrupt within the councils, and we both come across this time and time again, Twodog and I, and they are then disenfranchising people who are half blood, quarter blood, who have lived on the res all their life. Even the blacks, some of the Cherokee did, and some of the other tribes who were the blacks who were the slaves and the descendants, and they're married into the tribe, but because they looked African American or they looked black or they had that in them, they told them they weren't full blood, so they disenfranchised them, and that way they got no benefits, no medical, and they got no money from the government, and that way the corrupt councils and the corrupt chiefs and their families could take the money. Big business paid on Pine Ridge. They paid, big business paid backhanders to the chiefs, and they voted to sell alcohol on the res.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everywhere you go, you hear, do not let a Native American near alcohol. They've got no tolerance for it. It's not in their genes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't handle it.
No, that's right. I'm lucky. My white blood, the white part of me, my white genes, they can handle it.
Mm.
But, I'm very careful because I like it. So I'm very careful about it. But there's people on there, and people have no idea. They have this rosy outlook at the native ways. And the Cheyenne Reservation, or the Lame Deer Reservation on the Cheyenne Res, it is the poorest reservation in the country, and it is worse than Somalia.
Next to Pine Ridge.
It's part of it, isn't it?
Like 85% unemployment level.
Suicide rate runs at 6 times the national level on the reses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, they caught a young girl that was 11 years old in her closet. She was hanging, and she's fine now, but we just can't handle this. We can't handle this corporational stuff. You know?
Sky Streak says hi, Twodog. Sky Streak.
OCO Sky. Steve, if you have any more questions, we got a little more time, brother.
I think we've got a question for every minute.
Well, I tell you, let it fly, man.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll ask you a nice easy one, because we haven't got we've got 10 minutes, and we'll obviously have to hand over to. So I'll skip a few, and we'll get them maybe next week if you like.
Ask you.
What's the significance of medicine bags and the medicine wheel? Now, I know that's a big question, but just for my own curiosity, I have a medicine bag around my neck, and at the time I was kind of looking at them, and I seen the one that was for healing health. I chose the one for love, because I really do believe love conquers all.
Sure it does.
Could you even just with the medicine bag, if you can give us a bit of a background to that, if you don't mind?
You want to go? Go ahead, Janssen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a medicine bag. I wear it every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's spirit medicine. That's what it's about. It's people sometimes put little prayer bags in there, little prayer knots, and sacred objects that you come across or certain things, and then you fill up your bag. It's mostly Northern Plains, but everyone does it. We in the southeast woodlands, we have what they call a possibles bag, but we carry sacred objects, and I wear mine around my neck, obviously. And so it carries a lot in mine. I can tell you what's in mine, but you cannot touch it. I have white buffalo fur, which is the most sacred of all. And I also have wolf's tooth, which means that I will never be alone spiritually as I walk my journey. I will have my wolf with me. And I also have part bear claw in there because that is my animal totem, which is bear, because I walk, being a medium, I walk in two worlds.
Right.
And so each thing has a personal meaning. And I also wear a spirit shield that was made for me by my tribal sister, Tonya. And it's made of certain seeds and made a certain way to protect me from bad spirit. That is the significance of it.
I see. But I would like to comment on it. I mean, I just felt it was the right thing to do when I seen it. And,
Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to tell you also there are many different types of medicine bags. Some of them are personal, some of them are ceremonial, and some of them are gifted. The personal ones, everything is sacred, and different things will speak to you. They will teach you lessons. They will give you visions. They will touch your heart, and you will feel their energy and be able to communicate with them. Those things can be anything from a lock of hair to a flower. Whatever it is that speaks to your spirit, that's your medicine that you can put in your medicine bag, and you'll carry it close to your heart so that your heart and your medicine can be close. Also, there's a medicine bag that is done for protection from one thing or another. There's a medicine bag that is also done for medicine, but it's quite different from that. It's used to carry medicine. It's a medicine bundle. But there are many different types of medicine bags. There are some that you can make for yourself that no one will ever see or know the contents of, because it's your medicine and it's sacred to you. There are others that you will sometimes. I've been given medicine bags which I've carried for a while, and when I no longer needed their medicine, someone came who needed it, and I gave that medicine bag to them. This is a lot of the ways that it's done. But a medicine bag is either a personal thing or a spiritual healing thing.
I buried
or a
my
ceremony.
first one. Yeah, I buried my first one with ceremony when it was full, and my first one, and when it was time, I took it to a very special place, and buried it.
Right.
With ceremony, with tobacco and salt.
I tell you what, Steve, this is one of the visions I had. And the vision I had was I needed to be a warrior and stand up for my women because they are the life givers and they are being taken. I've also had a vision to be a buzzard man, and I've been a buzzard man all my life. And what a buzzard man is, I watch a burial ground in my area. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons I got shot at. But the fact of the matter is, our ancestors and everything in the ground, way I look at it and was taught that our bodies have to go all the way to the, back to the earth from where we come, and our spirits take another journey. And if you disturb the burial ground and take bones out of that burial ground, you have disturbed that individual's journey. So basically, our ancestors are high on black market. So we have people coming in and digging my ancestors up and expecting me not to say anything.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said a few things, haven't we?
Well, we've said more than that, but
yeah.
The fact of the matter is that if I go into a white man's graveyard and take somebody's ring off a finger, they're gonna put me in the pen. I'll never see light.
Yeah.
But they can do that to mine, see, without a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: the Cree are now calling me a peacekeeper from the Cree Nation in Canada, and I've turned into that. So I'm giving the beads of peace to all people, and that's black, white, yellow, red. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but here's one of the Crazy Horse's proverbs real quick. We got about 5 minutes. What it was Crazy Horse stated this word. Number 1, I'll be back in stone. Therefore, Crazy Horse Memorial. Crazy Horse also said this. The children of the white man will come to learn what their ancestors would not. And look at who we're setting with. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So, the white man is coming to learn from us. And we can't turn our back on any human being.
Yeah.
So, I'm holding to Crazy Horse's prediction because it's happening, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't turn my back on nobody.
Yeah.
And be the spiritual person that I am at the same time.
That is the way of it. The way it's going is that's why a lot of red souls are being born back into the Onega body, because what's happening is that the natives, it's not that they were special in a way of anything, because they made war, but what they had was they walked in harmony as most indigenous peoples from around the world. And there's a lot of indigenous people being reborn back into white bodies to try and help. Because at the end of the day, no matter how we see it, the white man is the one that's caused the most damage. He's done more than they can say about India catching up and China catching up, but it's the white man that's done the most damage. So what will happen is that with a lot of natives being born back into the white man body, it means that you would start getting teachers that will try and lead people away from the way they're going and back into nature. And this is one of the things that the Great Sky Council put upon the natives, indigenous of all races. Because before the Romans come, we lived in England, they lived in roundhouses. The Saxons and the Druids and all those beforehand, all the different tribes of England, the Iceni, they all lived in roundhouses. It was the Romans that impressed upon everybody with their square ways. The Greeks did it first, then the Romans. And then when they conquered, that's what they made people do, build square and not round.
Here's the point, Steve.
Unfortunately, guys,
everything an Indian does is in a circle.
Yep.
You look at the birds; they make their nests round. The trees are round. The rocks are round.
Well, maybe,
our Earth is round.
Well, maybe we can tackle that subject next week. Because
I would love to, brother. I think we got a couple minutes, but I would like to start with the woman's heart, if you don't mind, and then go to Steve and Kat if you wish, or Kat, then go to Steve and
we basically
have for any last words.
We have a minute, my friends.
Okay, Patty, you want to start?
Bye, everybody. Love you.
Okay, Kat, you in there?
Okay. I have my headphones off. Cheers, peace, and blessings. Love y'all. Bye.
Steve, you have any last words, brother Steve? Go ahead.
I was absolutely fascinated. Some horrific information, but loved every minute of it.
Jansa? Hosta. One of the things, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to let you go here with these words. Wakantanka Kichiun. May God bless. And brothers and sisters, walk with one mind, one heart, one spirit, black, white, yellow, red of the 4 directions. Love each other. However you walk to understand the Creator, whether it be Christian, traditional, Buddha, whatever. As long as you walk on this earth, Mother, let it be a constant walk and a constant talk with the Creator every day. And to all my people, black, white, yellow, red, Tai Chi Hila, meaning I love you. Love, honor, and respect. Patty, take us out, please.
Is Patty there?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're supposed to take us out, Steve.
Okay, I see. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, guys. We're going up, and I much appreciate anybody that's listening into Awake and TCT and 1800, and we have to bail out very quickly because the next show is about to come on, which is Roger Landry and Paula and the Liberty Beacon rant. Bye for now, folks.
God, man. I finally made it. I got away. I got away from the tyrannical government. I got away from the austerity measures. I got away from all the criminality and the corruption. I found a place. I found a place in serenity. Away from the madness. I found a place. I have my bug-out bag and my things nestled in this little mountain hideaway with wildlife all around me. And I have an AM radio I'm gonna switch on.
You're listening to awakeradio.co.uk.
Oh, wow, I still have Awake Radio. I still have the truth
and shazizradio.com
at my fingertips. And I'm nestled away.
Awake Radio.
Tune
Straight
in
talk for the
to
awake
Radio
and the aware.